Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, my goal is at the end of this video is you guys will have a little bit more awareness about your mental health, especially if you're considering working online. Now, with me today is an amazing soul, someone I have been so lucky and so blessed that I have met through my life. I've always been open about my mental health issues. First became more aware of mental health when I went through Typhoon Yolanda a few years ago, where I suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, and then I kind of started going into it, and years later, it's now been 7 years since I've been Yolanda, it still affects me and has brought up other issues within myself. And it's something that I'm aware, something I'm conscious about. But a lot of people, especially when you're shifting to working online, from working from home, it's not something that you think about. It's not something that I don't have any stress when I'm working from home. I'm nice, I'm comfy, blah, blah, blah. But it is something that you do have to take seriously. It is something that you do have to keep in mind and not something that you should take lightly. So today we're going to be joined by an amazing healer. She's someone who I went through so many therapists before, many psychologists, psychiatrists. None of them really worked for me because most of what would happen is they would give me a medication and I wouldn't really like it. So this woman was the first healer that I went to who didn't actually give me something right away, didn't give me a medication, and actually helped me work with myself. And it's now been months later that I've known her. She's still someone that I really look up to when it comes to mental health. So I have invited her today for this very special virtual at the interviews video. Okay, so with me today is the amazing healer, the person who has helped me a lot with my own mental health care, of making sure that I stay sane. Please welcome the amazing Sameera Sachdev. Hi Sameera, how are you?
Namaskaram, Le-an. Namaskaram, everybody. I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. You look fabulous with your fluffy hair.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to ask, because this is definitely something that not a lot of people think about when it comes to working online, working from home. It does still affect your mental health. It's not always stress-free. But with you, with your story, how did you get started as a healer?
How did I get started as a healer? Very interesting. So I really don't know when I started. I couldn't sort of pinpoint a date or a time when I became a healer. I think we all are healers, first of all, and that's why I call myself a healer and nothing else, because we're all healers. We have a healer inside us, and it's usually waiting, sitting in the corner, waiting for, us to shine our light on it so that the healer can grow in us and sort of become big and a dominant part of our being. So if I would know when is it that I started shining that light, that would go way, way beyond. I think I became a healer when I was a child, because I healed myself through a lot of difficult emotions, a lot of adversities in my life, to be who I am. I'm told, when I tell some people about my story of my childhood and of my life, they tell me that, usually people don't think this way. Usually they would not make such decisions. Usually they will not forgive. Usually they will not be that resilient. So I believe I became a healer when I was really a child. I healed myself through a lot.
Tell that journey from being someone who was healing herself even as a child. How did that translate to then what you're doing now, where you're helping literally international clients of like helping them heal themselves, as also with the way that you have your practice set up? How have that translated from a kid who was just kind of healing herself to wanting to also help other people?
You know what? This is a very beautiful question, and thank you so much for asking that, Le-an. And on a few years ago, I possibly was not ready to answer such a question, but today I can say I am. Few days ago, weeks ago rather, I read a quote that said that your path of healing might be full of difficulties. It might not be straight. And it might not even be in the right direction. But the path is full of lessons, and it is full of messages that you have to pick up to heal yourself. So that's exactly how my journey was. When I was a small child, the way success was fed to me was earning a certain amount of money, like it is for a lot of people. Most of us are fed success that way. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us. And then the other part of my success feeding was that, you need to have a certain position in an organization. So power, precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Power because you need control because you're insecure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course, at that time I didn't know that, but that's what I learned from that journey of my corporate world. What I was just trying to do was accumulate more and more power so that I could feel more and more secure, because I was so insecure. And you see, the thing is that when you go on the path of, or the journey of wanting to be secured because you're insecure, you become further insecure,
Mm-hmm.
because now you don't only cling to your initial insecurity, you also are clinging to the insecurity of being insecure again. So you're doubly insecure.
Yeah.
That was one of the first lessons I learned in my life, I think, which made me inclined towards what, I don't know if it was spirituality or not, but it definitely made me inclined towards me, and me as an individual, and not me as a wife of someone, or as a daughter of someone, or as a daughter-in-law of someone, or a mother of someone. It was me
Mm-hmm.
as me. So from that bit, so for from this insecure individual who's getting more insecure, from really wanting to be brave, to see those insecurities in the very beginning, and knowing myself and accepting those, to moving into learning, how I accept it and how I can help others to accept it without feeling guilty, depressed, anxious, miserable,
Mm-hmm.
and dysfunctional in any way, was not, honestly, was not a difficult journey. It was a very insightful journey. I loved it. I loved it each time when I accepted, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing. This is how I can accept this part of my life, which is so strongly uncomfortable right now." And I knew exactly how I can help, one of my clients do that. Yeah, so that's how this journey went, because I realized that, and a lot of times, very interestingly, a lot of times in my corporate career, and I have a long corporate career, I retired as a learning and development head of an organization. So and throughout my corporate career, very interestingly, I met people who I could clearly, and sometimes people would be very surprised that I would clearly tell, oh, you know what, this is where he's operating from. This is where I feel he's feeling not seen. This is where we could help, etc., etc. And I would try to do it, but people would be already astonished with, it's not the right environment to do this. I think,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Yeah.
not supposed to possibly heal people in a corporate world, is
Oh
what I
yeah.
feel, because that's not a place to tell people, okay, I can see through your clay, coping mechanisms that you have. I can see through, and I want you to be vulnerable. No, it doesn't work.
True.
People
True. Very
find that
true.
very threatening. That's very threatening for people, when somebody comes to them and says, all right, so this is my vulnerability, and I'm that courageous,
Oops. It's
that
okay.
courageous with you, that courageous with you. Now you show me your vulnerability. And that doesn't happen in the corporate world. That's not the right platform for it. I realized that in my life through a lot of lessons, and again, lessons. And that's when I decided that I'm going to put myself in that qualification, and I'm going to take that risk of foregoing my corporate career. It used to pay me really well. And I moved into psychology. I moved into several types of therapies. I certified myself in. I'm a hypnotherapist, a cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm a mindfulness-based therapist, and an NLP master practitioner. I did a lot of things, and It's not because I sort of feel that, everybody is a different book.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need different paper and a different mindset to read that book. There has to be a different time to, read that book, a different stage of your life when you read that book. And then there has to be a different writing in which you type that book. The words need to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Even the color of the ink needs to be different. So I feel that, all of these tools that I have, I don't call them tools. All of these understandings that I have of different things, and they have just sort of, made me more and more and more keen on what I do. I love it. I love it.
And I can tell, as someone who's you've helped, I can tell that this is something you do love doing. So in the last couple of months, for sure, you've been shifting to more working with people digitally, working online, because we don't have a choice. Like I remember when both of us made the choice, even of like, hey, let's just do this on Zoom next week. So how is that being able to affect the way that you heal people, the way that you help people, of mostly helping people who are professionals who are working online? How is that, this shift of going from in-person, talking to people one-on-one, to shifting to them still one-on-one, but then on Zoom?
So for me, that's okay. I'm going to answer this question in two ways. I'm going to keep the sanctity of your question, which is that, how do you hold people when you can't physically really hold them? And then I'm going to go on, how did I shift, right? So, considering that, I am looking at, first thing that I would like to just tell everybody is that I've always had international clients. Remember, I'm an Indian, so I've always had Indian clients. So I've always done online consultations. That has always happened. So this is not new for me. It was it was just that I have to do online consultations only. The only part that I sort of, miss is that sometimes I really feel a, deep need of hypnotherapy. And somehow I don't have I don't do hypnotherapy online.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I replaced it. I started doing psychodrama. So I kind of sort of figured out a way. How do I, and then the next part of the question, how do you hold people online? And how is it effective as if you're holding them offline, whichever way it is. So, when you do not have a connect, or when you do not have an intent, or when you do not have the space, you cannot create that intimacy even in the physical aspect of healing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one thing that my passion for healing has taught me is that it takes a lot of, and I always look at the client, I always look at the amount of courage this person would have mustered to pick up himself from wherever dark place this person was in, acknowledge it in their mental health or their mental condition, accept it, and then go to someone to open themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, that process, nobody looks at that process. And so many times we condemn people, don't we? We say, oh, you know what, this person is not seeking help. They don't understand how it works. People are not, people are still stigmatized on psychologists and mental health coaches or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're only stigmatized. It is also that, wherein we are doing this work of being advocates and being, people who have an opinion that they're not really going to a psychologist and getting themselves checked or whatever whatever we say, we're not being great advocates, supporters, motivators, cheerleaders for people who are feeling not good.
Mm-hmm.
Even at this point in time, when we know that, we're going through something that we've not really gone through before, how many times or how many of us really, even forget about others, how many of us really look at our own mental ability and how we are feeling and how sensitive are we being to ourselves? Are we being
Mm-hmm.
compassionate? Do we have the boundaries? Are we giving ourselves times to figure out what conditioning we are getting out of this whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
No. It's a lot of people, I feel, a lot of times, a lot of people just want to be busy. Yeah. So going back, so when I see that somebody's picking themselves up to make that attempt of connecting with me or any of the mental health professionals or advocates or coaches or social workers or psychiatrists, anyone, I think they have achieved at one level of consciousness. They have sort of made this small attempt of lighting their light.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep that very dear to my heart. I keep that very dear to my heart. So my first online, session with somebody who will consult me would be a cheerleading session of how proud I am of
Mm-hmm.
them, and I really am,
Yeah.
that they made that effort, that they figured it out, that they are so conscious of it already, and that they are ready to accept it, because that's 80% of work. To stay in that position of accepting is
Mm-hmm.
80% of the work.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and so I keep that very dear, and I think that usually works, because after that the sessions that people would have with me are pretty much structured too, and I'm sure there are many beautiful mental health advocates in this world who do way much better work than I do, and I'm humbly saying that I could learn so much from them. But the other set of things are so structured in the practice, structured to, I think the only structure my practice has is to structure around supporting you, loving you, curating you, making you conscious. That's the only structure around all of my other sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the structure is so strong, full of so much of positive effect, that, it doesn't then matter if I am really hugging you each time you come to my clinic or not, or whatever. It just doesn't matter, because the structure is full of that acknowledgement that people have missed in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
that it just sort of works even if it is online. But that's what I think.
True,
Anyway.
true, yeah. And as definitely as someone who has felt that acceptance, that welcome, that cheering on, and I remember the first time I contacted you of like, okay, I think I really need help. You were very much okay. When do you want to meet? Let's meet at this time. This is where I was like, okay, cool. So, and it's the same thing online. Me, I can reach out to you, and you have that same enthusiasm and love and care every time. So when it comes to that, you spoke on that of like, people are afraid of the stigma, and of course, but the first step is actually acknowledging it, is being conscious about it. What are as you've seen, what are the different, for people who've been working from home, what are different mental health factors that do affect them, even though, again, they're not in a physical office, they're not seeing their boss or their workmates all the time. Most of them are able to choose when they work. So what are still like a few mental health factors that can affect them both negatively and positively when they're working from home?
Positively, let's start from positive. So positively, I feel that, and the data has shown. So there've been surveys done, and then data shows that the productivity of people when they stay at home has actually increased. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so productivity has increased, which basically means that people are happy in doing work from home. And I'm being very, very particular in saying that sentence. They're happy doing their work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Are they happy at home? I don't know. But are they happy with the work they do? I don't know. But they're happy doing work from home. That's something that's
Mm-hmm.
already been established. And then the other positive thing that I feel is the fact that the stress of traveling. I think that's gone.
True.
Some people don't like to work under a lot of management, like, what we call micromanagement. So
Mm-hmm.
they are also relieved. So that's happy space to be in. What does not work? So you know what? It's the conditioning that does not work. The conditioning is, I don't know about you, but can I ask a very frank question? Let me ask all the viewers this very frank question. Guys, for example, there was no coronavirus, okay, and just for the sake of it, if all the organizations would have asked you, can you work from home? How many of you would have opted for it? And I'm sure there would be people who would opt for it, especially mothers. But there would be some people who would not opt for it. Most of the times, the people who feel very strongly in a provider role. So let me take off mothers and bring in nurturers, and let me bring in, that's why I did not say men, I said providers. So there are two roles in our society, and we have a conditioning to it, So when my conditioning is of a provider, and as a provider, as a hunter, I'm used to going out even when
True.
So my happiness does not come with the hunting of bringing the animal, really. That's not the happiness. The contentment comes with the whole process of going out, of hunting for the animal, chasing it, killing it, getting it, and then possibly eating it. So that's at the end. So when I'm a provider, I'm a provider-oriented human being, and I could be a man or a woman or a child, either way. I like the whole process of it, because that process gives me the social, standing in the society, helps me in making my reputation, creates credibility, helps me in looking at my growth goals getting realized, helps me in knowing what exactly people think of me. Because understand, our managers were not also, virtual managers. The first time they're virtual managers, so they also don't know what to do. And in I'm also the managing director of Gestalt, and we've created a program for including some psychoeducation for corporates to help the managers deal with this better for their employees. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And then, so this is the first time. So going back to, if I'm a provider, I like to do the whole process. So now I don't get to do the whole process. I sit at home. I don't go out for hunting anymore. I don't have the, the charm and that adrenaline that I get out of, that excitement that I get out of chasing. I don't have that sense of accomplishment of actually hunting what I chased. And I definitely don't have that sense of achievement, of bringing something, by doing all of that things that I used to do, bringing in the same thing to my house. So now also I'm getting my salary, but I'm not doing any of it. So my provider role is, it's not happy. My provider role is like, it's missing the charm there. And moving on to the nurturer's role. So you see, what has happened is, over the time in our society, in our community, I tell this to a lot of women who come to me, a lot of young women. I tell them that, don't expand, go deep. And the reason why I say that is because expanding makes you go at a very thinner level. So you solve all your problems at a very surface level. So what happens is, for the nurturers, what is happening? So they started, this adaptability to going to work, coming back, cooking, looking at kids for some time, done, and that's it, done. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. Next day, same. So they became very thinly spread, no? So, when you're thinly spread for everybody, when your spread is thin for everyone, it's also thin for yourself.
True.
So you see, you don't see your broken leg, you only see the wound on your leg when you're spread thin. So you did a little bit of band-aid on your emotional hurts, and you're like, okay, Abhi, now everything changed. Now you're a nurturer. You have a lot of time to be a nurturer. See, it
Mm.
matters, right? When you don't travel, when you know, are at a flexi time, or for some people who are not able to work at this time. Now you're a nurturer. Now your nurturer characteristic is going to come out, your personality. And now you're going to look at your broken leg. It will pain also.
True.
Those wounds that were there that you did not look at, you just did band-aid because you were busy. You know, because that the women usually end up doing nurturing and providing roles, and that makes them go very thin, so they don't really pay a lot of attention or don't even have the time to. Or rather,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for them to escape it also.
Yeah.
So, but now there's no escape. No, you'll have to see it. So now the pain is going to increase for the nurturer. So wherein I'm looking at the provider getting emotionally more in touch with their emotions, I'm looking at the nurturers, looking at their past wounds, or rather fractures, broken bones, which they did not address to. So this is how it is sort of, I feel impacting people in terms of their mental health. That is for people who are
Mm-hmm.
okay always. But for the people who are already vulnerable, and there are a lot of them, okay, almost 90% I feel people are vulnerable now. It's becoming even difficult for them because of course, because of the uncertainty and all of that. Everybody knows that. The biggest thing is that possibly is making them go, and also of course of the fact that the past traumas come vividly and all of that. But the biggest thing that sort of makes them more vulnerable is that the support system that they had in those 10% people who seem to kind of get it or
Mm-hmm.
keep it together are also vulnerable. So now it's like,
Mm.
okay, now what? So, and it's like suddenly, now what? Now who do I go to? Who do I go to? And then that's where when I get clients nowadays, I hear a lot of, I don't want to depend on them. I want to depend on them. Because somewhere we're trying to choose, okay, who has it together? Who has it
Mm-hmm.
together? Who has it together?
Yep.
But the point is, no one has it together right now. No one has it together. And no one ever had it together. It's just that it's more exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if
True.
I
True.
answered your question.
No,
It's sort
that
of,
was a very good way of looking at it. Of like, some people have now who hasn't looked at like their wound in forever. They have to stare at it now. It's now there. It's something that they now start managing. And for people who, they get their sense of accomplishment from going out, from having sometimes physical tokens to bring home of like, okay, this is what I did for the family. It is that is changing. So that both of your analogies, both the positive and of course and the negative, are things that I haven't actually really thought about. So thank you. So for that, with both sides of the spectrum, because we've now a little bit seen the both sides of the spectrum, what would be kind of good if you can name 3 or 5, up to you, of practices that someone can do to take care of their mental health while they're working from home?
okay, this is a difficult question to answer. But I'll try. See, it's very easy for any therapist and any mental health coach who's done certain work to tell you, see, these are the tools you can take. And I could just sit down here and tell you 5. But I think the tools don't matter. The understanding matters.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I'll go to it. It was never, see, when we learn, for example, I'll take it to another analogy. I love giving analogies, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, when we are learning maths, for example, you see, so some people learn addition through abacus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Abacus. Some people do it through Kumon methodology. I don't know what that methodology is, but yeah, that's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people do Singaporean maths. And then some people do no maths. They hate it anyway. I have a few people in my house like that. And then, so similarly, mental health has no, I don't think there is a tool that everybody can use for everything.
Mhm.
There is one tool that everybody can use. Rather, there's one condition that everybody can be in to use n number of tools.
Mhm.
And that is a condition of pure consciousness.
What does that
I
mean?
feel, I feel that, and I was telling this to one of my clients just now. I'll tell you what is pure consciousness not. So that way, it'll be easy to sort of
Narrow
uh,
down.
narrow down what it could be. And then I would try to tell what it is. So it is not, pure consciousness is not thinking that we cannot go for something higher because we're such smaller beings. But pure consciousness is not about what you're limited to do and limited to think. Pure consciousness is not in the past, it is not in the future. Pure consciousness is not outside in the validation of the environment. It is not even, your people in your house, your family, their validation is not pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is not forcing yourself through a stream that's going, let's say, in this direction, and you're forcing yourself in this direction because you don't know where is this one going. So you're like, okay, it's coming from there, that must be fine. So let me go there.
Mhm.
That's not pure consciousness. That's the opposite of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is surrendering. Pure consciousness is accepting. Pure consciousness is to be in the flow, even if the flow is dreadful or whatever it seems. Pure consciousness is as if you're the duck.
Mhm.
So you want to be, I always ask myself, so who am I today, duck or a swan? And then you know what the duck does. So the duck is like, this very calm person. And you look at the duck, it's so calm and there's nothing wrong with the duck, right? But if you go under the water and look at her feet, she's doing like this.
Hmm.
She's doing like this so that she can keep herself afloat on the water. Yeah. So I think pure consciousness is, and I'm not judging, it's okay to be a duck. And the swan is like always doing like this. And the duck is like, very nicely, but it's grappling under the water. And then a swan is just floating in the flow. Doesn't matter, never mind. And I'm not judging whether you want to be in the flow by, doing your hard work or doing your whatever you want to do to keep yourself afloat.
Mm.
And I'm not judging if you don't want to do anything and just be with the universe. Till the time you're in the flow, because I feel that the duck is learning its own lessons. And there are times when you have to be a duck to learn the lessons, period.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not judging whether you want to be a duck or a swan, but knowing whether you are a duck or a swan on daily basis is pure consciousness.
True, true. I can see that. I remember when you first told me that analogy. I'm like, huh, that makes sense. So that's beautiful that you've been able to make that so visual, so it's easy for people to remember. Like, okay, am I a duck or swan today? And of course, no judgments of like you just accept that you are, and then if you want to get better, if you want,
You
or
just
you just want
accept
to,
it.
yeah. It's now up to you.
You don't even have to get better. There's no better. There's no striving in pure consciousness. That is why it's pure consciousness. It's like
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you don't know and being okay with it. Can you do that? Because
True,
that's pure consciousness.
true, true. That is beautiful. Okay, so with that, because I love the that there isn't really actual like a few tools, a few tricks that you can do to take care of yourself. It's just actually being in the pure consciousness. What can
Yeah,
someone
that's a
do?
condition one can be in. And then
Mhm.
you have tools, my love. Believe me, you Google it.
True.
It's tooling. It's tooling.
There's a lot of them out there. So, what
Right.
can someone do to kind of invite more of that? pure consciousness. So kind of, I can say it in different ways. Pure consciousness being invite more acceptance or more light or any other way. But how can someone be able to invite that when they're even working from home at an office? How can they have more of that in their life?
Very beautifully asked. I love that. No, I'm very blessed, you see. I'm humbly by my teachers and by all the people who hold me very, very tight in my life. So how do you attain pure consciousness? How do you attain pure consciousness? So
What is
first
invite?
part. Okay, how
Inviting
do you
more
invite?
of it. Mm-hmm.
You invite yourself to it. So you invite yourself to it. And like you are pure consciousness. You don't invite it inside you, you become it, is what I'm trying to say. Because there's a difference. And how do you become it? So I don't know how you become it, but I'm becoming it. So I can tell you how I'm trying to becoming it, okay? Because that makes more sense to me. Because I've been thinking, okay, how do you become it? How do I know? So it's better I say how am I? Okay, so let's say I'm trying to be becoming the becoming of pure conscious. I'm trying to. So and everybody is, and it's not that only I am. You are. Everybody who's watching us on their own level is trying to become pure consciousness. That's the goal. Okay, no, there is no goal in consciousness. So no. So you're becoming it. And how do you become it? What's the process of becoming pure consciousness? Is really, I think there are a couple of components. No, I'm not going to answer it as components. I'm going to say a couple of lessons in it. The lesson of letting go is very important from the past.
Mm-hmm.
The lesson of imagination for the future. The lesson of bliss in the present. The lesson of knowing that the human potential is so limitless to create joy for themselves and so much courageous that, and you were asking for a practice, and I'll tell you that practice in a bit, which will close how you could, what's the becoming of pure consciousness. The lessons of letting go, imagination, present bliss. I think these three are the lessons of becoming pure conscious. So how much can you let go? How much can you let go? How much can you forgive? How much can you surrender?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much can you take risk? How much do you love yourself? So one practice that I would ask everybody to do, and I did it before I came to this interview, because I told you I'm having an adventurous day anyway. So what I did was I went to the mirror and asked myself, so Sameera Sachdev, do you love yourself? And the answer was 2 bits. Do you respect yourself? The answer was, would be better if I'm able to do a certain aspect. And I asked myself, do you trust yourself, Sameera? And I was like, more than anything else in this world. And I know that I said that, when it came to respect, I had a certain part that I wanted to do, which is striving. Even accepting that I'm trying to strive, and that, I'm not loving myself enough, or I'm not trusting myself enough. Even that is pure consciousness. Even that is pure consciousness.
It's basically just
so take that tool.
being.
That's the tool.
No, that's really good. Thank you. Okay, so this was very insightful for me, even though I've known you for about 8 months now. You've taught me a lot. Even you're just amazing that way. So how can others support you? How can people find you? How can people reach out to you if this is something that resonates with them? If this is something that they want to
reach out to her. Reach out to her. She's very good at it.
So I will link all of Sameera's Facebook, everything, all of her contact information. I'll link below because I know all of
Yeah,
it.
because because all of that is technology for me, so it doesn't work. You just don't. Oh, I want to do this. Never mind. So you will reach out to me, people, and you will connect with me if I am blessed with the opportunity of taking you in my journey with me towards pure consciousness. If I'm blessed by the divine, you will find me.
Sure, sure.
And I am the founder of Win Over Mind. So remember Win Over Mind. That's a very beautiful name. Win over mind. You know you don't have mind in your body. There's no organ called mind. So you have to win over what you have created. You can. It's in your control.
True, true. You've taught me that. Okay, so thank you so much, Sameera. This was a very beautiful interview. Like I said, you taught me more. Also, even though I've I have one-on-ones with you. I talk to you a lot. And this was still very, very beautiful for me. This is very amazing. So thank you so much for giving your time to these amazing people who are watching right now. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm humbly in gratitude for you to, choose me for this. I mean, there's so many psychiatrists here and so many qualified people, and I humbly think that, this is so, so good for me to reach out, and be there for people. I just want to say one thing, and that one thing is, you can love yourself. It's okay to love yourself. If it makes you feel guilty to love yourself, that's not consciousness. Also, okay. All right.
That's a good note.
All right. Yes. So please love yourself. Don't feel guilty. And when you love yourself and you'll focus on loving yourself, and don't become narcissistic, I don't mean that. But yeah, if you focus on loving yourself, you would be in a position to know exactly when you want to reach out, to know yourself better, so that you can love yourself better. Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Namaskaram.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview a lot. I know I did. I learned a lot still from Sameera. Like I said, even though I've known her for a lot of months now. Hit that like button if this was something that felt good for you, if this was something you felt heard and you felt just resonated with you. And also, if you haven't already yet, please hit the subscribe button right there so you get my tips on how to work from home every Sunday and Thursday. And make sure to check out these other 2 videos right here so you get more shortcuts when it comes to working from home. Now, I hope you guys have an awesome day. And remember that small steps matters. See you guys in the next video. Bye.